Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'll be reviewing the YORK Athletics Frank Trainer. So I have been intrigued by this model for a while. I was first made aware of the YORK Athletics Frank Trainer by my friend who runs a boxing gym up in Fort Collins. And honestly, the overall appearance of this shoe has been always what's kind of intrigued me. So after getting hit with enough targeted ads on Instagram, I finally decided to invest in a pair and put them to the test. And so 3 things to like about this model is number 1, I think the Frank Trainer is a really good all-in-one style cross-training shoe, especially for the individual that likes to blend classes, HIIT sessions, and some lifting on a weekly basis. So this is not going to be your best model for diehard CrossFit or maximal barbell lifting, but for doing a little bit of everything, the Frank Trainer has been an exceptional shoe. So if you are somebody who, for example, does classes or some kind of boxing style workout, and then you also blend some HIIT work, maybe some shorter runs and some lifting in on a weekly basis, I think the Frank Trainer is a good model that can accommodate all of those different tasks. The second pro that I have with this shoe is the overall appearance. So what initially drew me to this model was their overall appearance and how they could be styled and how they look pretty classy, especially for a cross-training shoe. So the Frank Trainer features a leather midfoot cage, which I think gives it that more formal look to it. And honestly, I wore this model to a concert literally last night, and it didn't skip a beat in regard to being styled and looking better in a more formal setting compared to just shouting, "This guy's wearing a cross-training shoe." The third pro that I have with this model is the overall breathability of the upper and how the booty fits. So we have a booty style construction in this model, a one-piece mesh upper, and honestly the mesh breathes really well. So if you're gonna be wearing these in hotter classes or outdoors in hotter workout settings, you should have a nice level of breathability with the shoe. And with the reinforced polyurethane foam sock liner in the shoe, you get a nice lockdown feel with this boot. So on top of being a training shoe that can kind of do it all, you get a nice lockdown boot with this model despite being a booty style construction. So despite it being a little bit more lightweight and breathable, you have a good level of security with this midfoot cage and the boot of the shoe. But now let's talk about a couple of cons I have noticed with the Frank Trainer. So 3 potential cons that I could see folks having with the Frank Trainer is number 1, the width of the forefoot and the boot construction for certain context settings and foot anatomies. So up here in the forefoot, we have what I would describe as a neutral width. If I had to compare the width of this forefoot to another model, it feels similar to a Nike shoe in regard to the width that you get with this model's toe box. If you are somebody who is constantly struggling to find enough width in your toe box for your training shoes, this may not be the best model for you. The mesh does stretch out as you break them in, but I'm still not convinced you'll have enough width if that's your context. Another thing to note is the boot construction of this model. If you have a thicker foot, or if you're wearing thicker socks, or if your foot is sweaty, this shoe can kind of be a pain to get on. It doesn't impact the performance of the shoe, but it is something to note. It's similar to a Noble high top trainer, how it's such a pain to get on at times. This model can be similar for certain contexts and settings. The second potential con that I could see folks having with the shoe is that the leather midfoot cage did have a little bit of bleeding onto my mesh upper up here. So on the lateral side of the base of the forefoot on both of my shoes, I am starting to get a little bit of bleeding here from the black material. Now this is right where the forefoot flexes. So we have a toe guard that wraps the entirety of the toe box, and that's causing a little bit of friction here on the leather midfoot cage when I'm flexing my foot. So I'm not sure if that's due to the flexion and the materials used that are kind of colliding with one another, or if this happened because I did wear these for a warmer session outside the other day when it was 85 degrees. So either way, I am experiencing a little bit of color bleed here from the leather midfoot cage. Now, whether this is present on every single colorway, I can't definitively say, but I am noticing that on this black and white colorway that I invested in. The third potential con that I could see folks having with this model is it will have some performance limitations. So honestly, when it comes to squats, for example, working around 385 pounds, that was right around the threshold where I started to notice the midsole giving me a bit more compression. So you are not gonna probably get the most out of the shoe in regard to stability if you plan to use them for max deadlifts and max squats. They are stable, but they may not be the most stable if you want something that's very specific in that context. Another context and performance area where this model may fall short is for CrossFit. We don't have a ton of support for rope climbing, and with the upper construction, with how it's so clean, I would say limit this shoe's use for CrossFit settings just to prevent any breakdown of the upper or having to invest in a new model way too quickly. But that all being said, let's talk about the performance of the Frank Trainer. To discuss the performance of the Frank trainer, I'm going to break this section into a few different parts. I'll talk about lifting, versatile training, shorter runs, and then daily wear. In the context of lifting, the Frank trainer has done an exceptional job. Now, I think they're going to be best for folks who want to use this shoe for more like light to moderately loaded sessions. Once again, it's not going to be your best model for like maxing out your deads and squats, but if you are somebody who's training anywhere from like 200 to 400-ish pounds, the stability in this model will be plenty fine. In regard to the heel to toe drop in this shoe, it comes in at 9 millimeters. So it is a slightly higher drop than what others might be used to. So if you like a lower drop, that would definitely be something to consider with how this shoe is going to perform for you and feel for you when you're lifting. Personally, I didn't mind it and I actually kind of liked it. And I think that's why I like this shoe for some lower body movements and for my lighter power cleans. The higher drop felt a little bit more natural in those contexts. And if you like a higher drop when you're training, that will be a good thing for you as opposed to a knock. When it comes to versatile training, I really dig this shoe, and why I like it is for 3 key reasons. Number 1, the midsole is light and responsive, so you do get a nice level of pop from this shoe. So if you're doing broad jumps, jump rope, whatever it might be, you get a nice level of bounce in this model. The second reason why I like it is the outsole. The outsole I think does a really good job at giving you nice tread for multi-directional work. So whether you're being explosive laterally, or if you're going forward, backwards, or training on turf, rubber gym floors, whatever it might be, or wooden gym floors, you should get a nice level of traction with the shoe's outsole. The third reason is the midfoot construction. So with this leather cage, you do get a nice lockdown construction when moving laterally. Like I didn't really have any issues with foot overhang. So whether I was broad jumping or moving laterally and like catching and absorbing my landings, this midfoot cage and the toe guard up here both did a pretty good job at locking down my foot. So for versatile training and more class style work, the shoe I think should do an exceptional job. For shorter runs, this model is okay. I would suggest capping your mileage to about 3 miles or less. It does feel a little bit better than other cross training shoes out there that are a bit more firm in nature for running. But what I would say is that shorter runs will definitely be best in this shoe. The breathability is good, the responsiveness is good. I like the heel to toe drop for running, but it could feel a little bit problematic for longer runs because I think you might actually start to bottom out this midsole a little bit. For sprints, this model also did an exceptional job. In the context of daily wear, I really dig this shoe, and that's honestly one of my biggest perks with this model is just the overall appearance. I could see this model being a really good just daily driver or even travel shoe. If you want a training shoe to wear for traveling or for daily wear and then to the gym to train in, this could be a good option to look into. They have a lot of different colorways that look pretty dang good too, so if you like that leather midfoot cage look, I think you'll really resonate with this model. All right, so now let's answer the question, who should invest in the YORK Athletics Frank trainer? So I think if you're somebody who on a weekly basis likes to blend HIIT training, some class work with some lifting, and then maybe even some shorter runs, and you want a training shoe that you can also wear on a daily wear basis that looks good, the Frank trainer will be a really good pick for you. I like the overall appearance. Their performance has been exceptional. My only beef with this model is that I don't think it's going to resonate with everybody's foot anatomy. So wider footed individuals, you might want to look into different shoes, and it's not going to be your best training shoe for maxing out your barbell lifts or for CrossFit. But for a little bit of everything, the Frank trainer has done an awesome job. When chatting on the sizing and fit in the Frank trainer, I think most lifters and athletes should be safe going true to size in this model. The width is what I would once again describe as like a neutral width. The length does run a tiny bit long, but not enough to warrant sizing down for most individuals. And what I would say is before you invest in this shoe, definitely check out YORK Athletics sizing tool. It's a pretty nifty tool that helps you really dial in what size would be best for you. So definitely check that out if you're thinking about investing in the Frank trainer. So when chatting on the price of the Frank trainer, you can expect to pay $155 USD. Now, I think that price point can be a little bit hit or miss. I think if you resonate with the performance section of this video and you want a shoe for some daily wear, this model can be a really awesome option to look into, and I think the price could be justified in that context. Now, that being said, if you are trying to save a little bit of money, you can definitely look into other training shoes that have better price points and they will perform similarly to the Frank trainer. But that also being said, before I invested in the shoe, I searched around for coupon codes from other athletes. I was able to find one, saved me like 30 to 40 bucks. So that could definitely be worth looking into if the Frank trainer is a shoe that intrigues you. All right, so when talking on the weight, heel, toe drop, and insole in the Frank trainer, for my size 10 model here, we have a weight of 10.40 ounces. The heel to toe drop for this model is 9 millimeters, and the shoe does feature a thin foam removable insole. All right, so now let's look at the construction of the Frank trainer. Up here on the toe, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up. I actually wish this was made to be a little bit wider. I think it would be better for durability in regard to this outsole lipping and protecting this forefoot midsole material. Looking at the toe box itself, we have a toe guard that wraps the entirety of the shoe. It is this like smooth synthetic overlay. And then looking at the upper itself, we have a one-piece mesh that runs from the forefoot to the midfoot to the heel. Looking at the midfoot construction, we have a leather midfoot cage, and then if you look right here, this is where the toe guard and the midfoot cage give me a little bit of issues with bleeding with the material. So this is right where the bend of the shoe is when you're doing any form of flexion at the forefoot. So we have a little bit of mesh here that separates the two. I'm not sure if this should either be shortened in regard to the toe guard or lay under the midfoot cage to prevent this, but this is where the bleeding is starting to happen on my colorway. And then looking at the midfoot construction, we do have this leather overlay and we have 5 core eyelets that wrap up. And then running up the tongue of this booty style construction shoe, we have loops that cover pretty much all of the lace points. This helps to provide additional security for the shoe's midfoot. Looking at the boot construction, we have 2 external tabs here, one on the top of the booty style shoe and then one back here on the heel. And trust me, these do help, so it is nice to have these big loops. And honestly, I kind of like them. It gives this shoe more of like a vintage or timely feel with its construction. We have a reinforced layer down here to give you extra boot security. We have a highly responsive EVA foam midsole that runs through the entirety of the shoe. And then looking at the outsole, we have a full rubber outsole with a good amount of tread. So whether you're training on turf, wooden gym floors, rubber gym floors, this outsole does a pretty good job. And as a whole, the midsole and outsole move pretty well too. So this is a pretty maneuverable shoe. Looking at the insole construction, once again, we have a thin foam removable insole. You can take this out and put your own orthotic or insert in if you wish, but as a whole, that pretty much wraps up the brunt of the shoe's construction. If you have additional questions on this model, drop a comment down below. All right, guys, that wraps up my review of the YORK Athletics Frank trainer. Overall, I'm a fan of this model. Its performance has been exceptional and I like it for daily wear. There are a couple of quirks to note about the shoe, which I mentioned in this video, that could be a turnoff for some, but I'm happy that I invested in the Frank trainer. Honestly, it's been one of my more subtle surprises in regard to training shoes as of late. If you have any questions on this model, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally. And as always, guys, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.